All right, so the Department of Justice is now investigating after this group of anti-ICE protesters on Sunday stormed into a Minnesota church. See some video here, and you also saw one of them speaking to our own Mills Hayes. So these protesters say they were targeting the church because they believed that one of the pastors was a local ICE official. We've now confirmed in our reporting that that part is true, but the protest is still raising a number of legal questions. So let's bring Jesse Weber in on this. The host of Jesse Weber Live debuts tonight, 11/10 Central, which we'll talk about in a moment. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you.
But on this issue, what does the law say? Protest in a church during a church service. What's at play?
That facility is very special. A church, a synagogue, a mosque. If you interrupt those services, that's where you might cross the line. There are federal laws in place. There's something called the FACE Act. You're going to hear a lot about the FACE Act.
Right.
Basically, it is a federal violation. It is against the law to use threats or intimidation or just even obstructing or interfering with somebody's rights to exercise their First Amendment, their right to practice religion. And here, if you have a group that's coming in there, and there was reporting that people had to leave, they felt they had no choice but to leave, that is where you get into some interesting territory. There's also been talk about, well, what was the coordination here? You know, was there pre-planning? Was there an agreement to do this? That's when you get into conspiracy land. And there's some, federal statutes with respect to conspiracy to defraud the United States or violate someone's rights. I think this is a big deal. This is not a protest in a public council or anything like this. When you go into a house of worship,
right,
that is where it may be problematic.
So it's like the First Amendment clashing in many ways because the protesters have been arguing in other venues
Correct.
that the First Amendment protects their right to protest, which it does. But the line that's being crossed is that you have people have the freedom to also practice their religion, and they're doing so actively. Because there's a service, does that matter that the service is underway?
Correct. It is 100%.
Right. In other words, they're not protesting outside a church.
If they were protesting, let's say, 500 yards away,
right,
or if they were blocking people from coming in, that would be a problem. That's what steps it away. So when we talk about, should people be investigated? Are they preventing ICE from doing their mission? Are people obstructing? This is one of those scenarios which, by the way, if I could tie it into something else,
sure.
There's the talk about the Insurrection Act.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot last week. Yeah.
Right. So whether or not the president can send troops on the ground because there is an invasion or because literally law cannot be carried out. The more you have instances of this where it could be support to say that there is chaos, law and order cannot be carried out, the local and state officials cannot control what's going on, the more events like this can support the use of the Insurrection Act, which is, by the way, very important because that is a potential federal law the president can use to not only send troops, but troops can carry out law enforcement functions. So that's a very, very big deal.
You see this as almost like potentially some sort of a turning point in all of this, because up until now, I think the protesters could argue that, again, they had been expressing their right to protest. Maybe they'd been there's been this back and forth. Are they impeding an investigation? In many cases, no. They're out there voicing their displeasure with policy, but you're saying this might have crossed a line.
They can engage in any peaceful protest they want. It's
right.
When it potentially interferes with somebody else's federally protected rights, constitutional rights, is where you get an issue, which, by the way, I keep tying it into all these other things, but they are kind of connected.
Yeah.
These investigations that may be launched into Walls and Fry, I personally don't see those going anywhere.
Well, those started before the church
protest. And it ties into it because when you can have a politician who says, you can criticize what the government's doing, you can protest what the government's doing, I don't think that rises to the level of a crime or actionable conduct. You have to have something more here. Everybody has a right to express how they feel about what's happening in Minnesota, but it's the way in which you do it. And if it is interfering with somebody else's rights in a substantial way, that becomes a problem.
Right.
So these investigations, unless Fry and Walls were basically saying, I want you to go there, I want you to blockade ICE, I want you to prevent them from going forward, use whatever means necessary, I haven't heard that.
In other words, more to the point, they seem to be staying out of it, which has been political criticism of the way they're handling it in a sanctuary city. This is a kind of, I guess, a different argument to some extent, some of which I'm sure we'll hear tonight. But go ahead and finish your point and tell me about the show.
Look, Virginia governor, she just got rid of an executive order that says that local law enforcement doesn't have to cooperate with ICE. She can do that as long as they're not obstructing federal agents from carrying out federal law. That's her prerogative.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.